Hey everybody, it's Drew Lentz, the Wireless Nerd, and today I have a good friend, a special guest from the Restaurant Technology Network, and the queen of MURTEC herself. We've got Miss Angela Diffly online. Say hi. Who are you? What do you do? Talk to me. What's going on? It's good to see you.
Yes, it's so good to see you. So great to be on the program. I think that Abby Lower might have took a little offense to that Queen of MURTEC. I think she holds that title for 20 years now.
Yeah, I know.
but hey, I could be second in command, and I had a great time. It seems like it was just a blur, but it was a great show. We had record attendance and tons of great content at the show. So I'm excited to talk to you about it today.
Yeah, awesome. So that's exactly what I want to dig into. I remember years ago, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, when RTN was first getting started, and I was there, and everyone was asking for volunteers, like breaking up into program groups, and to see where it started and where it is now is phenomenal. It's great to see so many people adopting it and getting involved and big players. Tell me a little bit about what started the RTN, why you all started it, and how far it's come in the last few years.
Sure. So RTN, the Restaurant Technology Network, was started 5 years ago. The reason it was started is because we were hearing rumblings in the industry that it's all great to come to MURTEC, or these RFS Tech, or all of these buy-sell conferences where you're walking around the show floor and you're talking, here's what we have, trying to make deals happen. But what restaurant CIOs, CTOs, chief innovation officers, architects, what they really wanted to do is take a peek behind the curtain and talk to the people that are actually creating the technology. And there was really not space at the shows for them to come. I mean, they have a limited number of badges, let's face it. They were sending their enterprise sales folks, and they didn't have that space for the technology folks to really roll up their sleeves and get involved in a show like tech. And there wasn't even really an organization for techies to live that was solely focused on restaurant technology and standardization. So we saw this kind of gap in the marketplace. We created RTN for that. And we started off with, I remember the first MURTEC, when we launched it, we only had 6 or 7 brands on the screen. And we were so proud that those brands entrusted in what we were doing, and they joined us really early. But here we are, flash forward 5 years later, and we have over 400 brands associated with RTN. And we've created 7 industry technology standards. So as you can see, Drew, like you mentioned, way back when till now, it's just been it's been 5 years in the making, but we've gotten a lot done in that short period of time.
Yeah, and so MURTEC, I remember I first got introduced to this when I was part of Comcast Business, and they said, this is where you have to be. We've got so many customers that are here, so many different innovative things that are happening here. But when I walked in, exactly like you said, it wasn't the techies who were there doing tech stuff. It was a lot of suits, and you were like, okay, well, these are the people that are making technology decisions, but the decisions that, they were at that level where it was like that key decision maker, but there wasn't a lot of that engineering side, that solution architecture side, the people who were, whose fingernails were broken from, plugging in cables. And I think RTN did a really good job. The Technology Network did a good job of merging those together. But to back up, what is MURTEC and why is it such an important show for the industry?
So MURTEC is the Multi-Unit Restaurant Technology Conference, almost 30 years in the making. So imagine 30 years, that's some longevity.
Yeah.
And I think that, one of the coolest things about it is just the networking opportunities. I mean, it really is one-to-one. They try to keep the ratio really close, supplier to restaurant ratio.
It is, and it's not a large show, so I almost feel bad talking about it because I don't want everyone to show up to it. I mean, I do, but at the same time, it's a very specific group of people.
It is. It's restaurant technology decision makers. It's restaurant technology. It's hardcore restaurant technology. So we also have this MURTEC Executive Summit that happens in the fall.
Yeah.
Changes locations, and that's kind of a fancier white glove, exciting time to get together with the industry. But MURTEC proper, the big MURTEC that happens in March every year, is really where everybody comes that's techie.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Executive Summit, we have business folks, we have operations folks, we have CMOs, COOs, presidents, and things like that, CEOs. But at MURTEC, it's really where the technology folks like to come together. And so that RTN connection gives them a technology badge when they become a member. So they don't have to sacrifice their enterprise sales badges. They can bring their technology people.
Yes.
And then we can join working groups and work on cool things together in person at the show.
Well, and I love the way that they work in tandem, right? And so there are 2 shows. There's the MURTEC show and then the Executive Summit. That one's really good also. And it's, and when you talk about this being for the large scale, I mean, you're talking about the people that are that are traditional attendees of MURTEC, I mean, these are the big restaurants. These are the big, large chains. These are quick service. These are fast food, quick service, sit down. I mean, everybody's there. White tablecloth. I mean, it really is a whole group of people that's in there. And what's great about what y'all are doing is they have such a diverse technology need, but at the same time, some of it is so similar that's part of what helped launch Restaurant Technology Network. So there's 7 working groups that are part of it. You said right now. What are do you know off the top? I mean, it's not a pop quiz, but can you think of the top 7 or the 7 that you guys have right now?
Well, so the 7 that I mentioned earlier are the standards that we published. So I can rattle off those, but the working groups we have going on now, we're about to launch a back of house working group.
Awesome.
And these working groups are like think tanks. We have a winning customer. We have a restaurant technology capabilities framework work group that's on phase 2. We just wrapped up a transactional data standard work group where we published actually the transactional data standard.
Awesome.
And that one kind of is like evergreen. It's continuing to iterate.
Yeah.
So we publish a kind of a chunk of it, and now we've got another chunk, and now we're working on another chunk. We did a customer record data standard. We did
the API one is the one I remember launching. I was like, I'll help with the API one. That's awesome. Getting people on the same page. Like, how are you going to, is it a plate? Is it a meal? Is it a serving? What are the words and terms that are going to use? Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Exactly right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The Open API framework was the first thing that we did, and we consider that like the foundational framework over which everything else is layered. All the data standards. You have to have an open API.
Yeah.
Or at least some of those principles. We've defined 8 key principles that make what makes an open API.
Well,
Lots of people have one, but do they really? You know?
I mean, this, and I feel like this was birthed at the time when all the food service delivery things were coming out, and you'd walk into a restaurant, and I remember, you would see 6 different tablets behind the checkout where it's like, well, there's DoorDash, and there's this one, and there's, Favor, and there's whoever else. And it was, how do you consolidate that, build it into the POS, or build it into the system to help, get rid of those headaches and make everything a little bit more efficient. So then this year at MURTEC, tell me about what was going on, because I got to go to NRF this year and my mind was absolutely blown. Brian Klinger and I were walking around looking at stuff just like, oh my God, I can't even imagine what the next year is going to be like. So we saw honestly, my favorite thing was the tech that I saw from SoundHound with Samsung and with Let's Chat, where it was, you could pull up to the drive-through and you could talk in Portuguese and it would translate it to Spanish, or translate it to English, or you could come up and use American Sign Language and it would interpret that and then translate it to an order in Spanish. And it was like, what in the world? That was crazy. What did you see this year at MURTEC that you were like, yes, that's a cool thing to see?
Yeah, well, I loved everything you just said. Samsung and MTech were there, and they had all of this cool stuff set up in their booth that was like all about interoperability, to going back to standardization and how things work together. I like I think it was Let's Chat is the application you're talking about that translates all of the language. I love when people layer in the AI. But the coolest thing I think I saw was the winner of Startup Alley. I don't know if you've heard about who won Startup Alley or what they did. I saw the Ring of Fire one also. So tell me about it. Let's talk about those two. Well, let's geek out for a second on Startup Alley. I cannot believe. So I had the privilege of walking through Startup Alley with our 3 judges. One was from TGI Fridays, one was from Jollibee's, and one was from Costa Vida. And we walked through that alley, and they were joking. The judges were joking around. They're like, if we need $5 every time someone says AI, because everybody was talking about AI and how their solution has AI built. But the coolest thing is, remember a long time ago when people were like, oh, we built this mobile first, and it was all about mobile first. Yeah. Now it's really about AI first. Like, how are you envisioning AI from the ground up, and not just like plugging it into your solution on top of something, but really engineering and architecting your product with AI first. Of course. With that mindset kind of thing. So the guy who won, they're from Expo, and Expo, it was so cool to see him. And you got to go see this demo. If you haven't seen it online, go look at their video demo. Expo is the name of the company. They do like a chat GPT style of like a co-pilot for a manager of a restaurant. Okay. So let's say you're managing a restaurant, and instead of going and having all these people pull all these reports and trying to spend hours of aggregating data and sort of sorting through it and analyzing it, this thing you can just ask it, looking at my enterprise, which 5 stores are performing the best in Coke sales the week of May 10th through the 20th. And it'll literally just pull up not only charts, all of your data gets sucked into this thing, and it analyzes it, it pull in real time, like ChatGPT, that quickly.
That's awesome.
Pulls it all up and charts it out, and graphs everything, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it is like literally having a manager, a restaurant manager, co-pilot who's also a data scientist in the palm of your hand.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's how they market themselves, but I mean, that's the way
that's what came across. And I
was blown away.
I think, I love that. And I love the interaction between technology like that and technology like Theatro, right? Where you've got it in your ear, and instead of interfacing with it, just like ChatGPT has now moved onto the actual voice side, where imagine when that transition happens, you've got it in your ear and you can say, tell me how my stores are doing right now. Tell me, where do I need supplies, or, where am I low on cheese for the pizza people? Things like that. This is that real integration of AI into something that becomes useful. Because I think down in South Texas, one of the things that I hear about a lot is on the workforce side is that AI, ML, blah, 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 how many jobs it's going to take specifically in the service industry. And we saw that a little bit at NRF, where we saw the robotics and the machinery and the stuff that was automated. Sure. And I think that there's a place for it there, but there's still a place for using AI to help people do their jobs better. And that's where that whole thing of, it's not AI that's going to take the jobs, it's people that understand how to use AI that are going to take the jobs, So a real world application like that, I think is pretty awesome. What else did you see? What else was if you had to pick a theme for the show, now that it's over and you look back, a couple weeks and you go, you know what, other than AI, what really stood out? Where's the direction of the ship headed? What's the future looking like for restaurant tech?
Automation. I think automation is the word. I mean, to me, because it really encompasses everything you just said, from robotics to like AI, just automating everything and aggregating data in a way that you can automate things to make things so much easier. And you can, you can think about it. Think about all the things you can save on. Yeah. You can save on labor. You can save on, your cogs, like you can save on your inventory. You can save on everything, in the kitchen, everything. Yes. Front of house to the back of house to everything in between. I think automation. And so I think anything you can automate. And also I love the theme of like data being harnessed to like hyper personalize the customer experience. I think that's a little bit overused.
Personalization. Really.
But I think it's getting better and better and better with AI. I mean, it's getting so good now that, I feel like we're going to be so spoiled as consumers. We're going to be so spoiled in a couple of years. So
there's a couple of things. One is the one that I've always loved since I saw it at B-Dubs was the grease the fryer robot that takes
Flippy.
The wings. Yeah, Flippy. Yeah.
Robotics.
I mean, that just on insurance alone. I'm looking at that going, this is, because you're always as restaurant owners, whether they're big or they're small, you're always trying to find every way that you can do something more efficiently and to save money so that you can increase margins, whatever it is. But from a safety perspective, when you talk about a wings restaurant that serves primarily wings and French fries and fried, mm-hmm. something like Flippy is just incredible there. But the cost savings just on the insurance, it feels like would pay for that. Now, granted, that may take a line job somewhere, but it also may give someone the chance to do a better job doing something else than having to run over to the fryer every 5 seconds. It's that whole idea that it gives them more time to do a better job doing other things by taking those scary things off the menu, if you will.
Now they have Sippy, Flippy, Sippy, Chippy, and Chipotle's using it, for the tortilla chips, and you've got Sippy, Flippy, and I'm sure there's a lot more, but I know White Castle is kind of among the first to start using miso robotics in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they really embraced it early on, which is that organization is just impressive in the way that they sort of architecture and tech.
The second thing that comes to mind with that is good restaurants are reliable for their consistency, right? Consistency in food. And that's one of the reasons people continuously go back to certain restaurants. A friend of mine who's got a place here in South Texas called the Blue Onion, he's been making the exact same spinach and artichoke dip for 20 years, and it has never tasted just even any slight difference over the last 20 years. And it's so great because that's one of the things that drives us over there. From a consistency perspective, I feel like the whole automation component can help bad restaurants be better.
I agree with you.
Or maybe not bad. I'm just saying that, it helps there.
I agree 100%. I mean, think about McDonald's. I mean, McDonald's, it's not the greatest hamburger. It just reminds you of when you were little.
Yeah. I had McDonald's yesterday in the O'Hare airport. I was like, and I generally, I try and watch what I eat, but I was like, man, it's just good. And my kids,
Nostalgic.
listen,
You love it. 'cause
their
it's
Sprite
nostalgic.
mixture is like crack, is all I'm
Oh.
saying. And there's a whole YouTube conspiracy
I know.
about their Sprite and the taste with the French fries and the this and the that.
Listen, I'm a Diet Coke addict. You don't have to tell me. But let me tell you now. Did you hear the latest they announced yesterday?
No.
Or the day before? Krispy Kreme. They're
What?
going to logistically roll out all the Krispy Kremes to all the McDonald's now.
Oh.
They did a pilot a couple of years ago in Kentucky,
Oh,
like
my
a really
gosh.
small pilot where they were like delivering the Krispy Kremes over and having the pilots go in the McDonald's and see how it goes. They're going to have donuts, the Krispy Kreme donuts, not only in the breakfast but like all day.
I live in the diabetes capital of North America. FYI, I live in what is constantly ranked as the fattest city in the United States. Beautiful McAllen, Texas. So, oh my God, here we go. When are they going to do that with like fresh fruit?
Apples at McDonald's. Come on now.
Yeah, right. Well, that's
You can get
fantastic.
apple slices if you so choose.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so you've got the executive summit. If I'm right, the executive summit's coming up, right? It's like April or May or something like that.
It's coming up in October. You know what though? Here's something I need to
October,
tell you that you probably don't know. We have a new executive summit coming up in June, a brand new in Canada for our first time. We're going up to Canada.
Awesome.
We're in Toronto in June, and then in October we'll be in San Diego for the executives, the traditional executive summit in San Diego this year in October.
Oh my God! So it's gonna be all Tim Hortons, is what you're saying in Canada. It's gonna be poutine and Tim Hortons. I love it.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I think it's really going to be fun to go up there and see, what the restaurants are doing up there and explore a little bit of their world and how can we take the standards that we've created that are they're universal, and share them with our friends across the globe. Really is what we're trying to do.
Of course, we got to get one down in Mexico, man, which is like 5 minutes from my house. There's so many people moving conferences to Mexico City right now. It's so cool to see.
That's a great city.
Mexico City's closer to me than Dallas is, so if that gives you any idea where I am on the map. But no, that's incredible. That's good to hear. And coming into those, then, what are the key themes? What are the key takeaways? What's the focus that you all have in the executive summit? Because it's one thing from the tech perspective. We can talk about Wi-Fi 7, and we can talk about near field communication, and we can talk about all these things that are used for payment transactions and whatever. But at the C-suite level, CXOs, what's top of mind for them? Is it moving into a world where they've got more automation and personalization to increase, not only just efficiency but profit and everything? Or where do you think their heads are right now as like a sneak peek into the executive summit?
I think, from executive summits in the past, the theme has always been kind of like where business and technology kind of intersect. And I think what people are really trying to figure out is how to use technology to enhance not only the customer experience, but the employee experience.
Yeah.
So whether that means automating, like you mentioned, in the back of house and sort of reallocating employees so that they can do their jobs and add more value in whatever way that they're most talented in. It's trying to reimagine the enterprise where you're taking technology and you're using it to wow both of those really critical audiences, both your employees and your customers. So however that comes to life in your brand and whatever you believe is the way to do it, there's a mix of all of that can happen. And listen, I think loyalty is big. I think that, reimagining loyalty and making sure that you're using the data in the right way. And of course, with the right governance to make sure you hit the right people the way they want to be spoken to and the channel in which they want to receive that information is critical too. So all of those high level conversations. I mean, I remember the last MURTEC Executive Summit, speaking of Flippy, Nicole West was on stage, the CMO of Chipotle, talking about Flippy and the decision that went into that, rolling out that. And it was all about what you just mentioned about consistency.
Yeah. And
they were like, if it doesn't, make our chips taste the greater or just as great as they are now, we're not going to do it.
That's
it didn't
awesome.
matter about the labor and stuff. So they really made sure that the quality was there before they thoughtfully roll out automation. So I think
that's keyword. Yeah, keyword. Lots of good intent there and making sure that they do it correctly. Well, that's awesome. This has been such a fun conversation, and I'm going to end it there on that high note. Thank you so much for taking the time to join and talk a little bit about MURTEC. Again, my audience may not be the audience that goes to MURTEC every day, but I think that's why I wanted you here, because every day, the thing that sticks out of my mind, and I remember hearing it somewhere, and I believe it was at MURTEC, is that is that every day everybody interacts with the brands that are there. Whether they, when they make that decision I went to Subway for lunch. I had a meatball sub. I mean, here we go. I interacted with someone that is a MURTEC member or someone that could be on the RTN. And I think that people really need to see what you all are doing for the people that are not familiar with it. I got lucky enough to be a part of it, but for anyone that's interested, you can find you online. Can you tell me quick, what's your website? Where do people find you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Angela Diffly on LinkedIn, or go to restauranttechnologynetwork.com. But, I think what I'd like to say to your audience is like, Geeks unite. Like, we are all about tech, techie to techie talk. The people in these work groups are tech driven, they're techies, and they geek out all the time in these work groups. So if you have that kind of, infrastructure makes it all happen, right? We can't do anything without the right infrastructure and the right systems to build the frameworks for all of this new creative, cool tech that we've talked about on the program today. So join us. You'll be among good company.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to end this recording and let everyone know you can find us online, wirelessnerd.net. You can look for the Waves podcast, everything that's out there. Thanks for listening to this episode. Angela, thank you for your time, and we will see you all next week.